with another episode. I know time's off a bit, but bear with us. We're still getting used to it. We're still getting used to this system, but hope everyone's doing well. As we mentioned, as everyone may have seen the poster and everything that we put out tonight, we have an interesting discussion or topic, shall I say? And we host one of my good friends, actually, one of my long time friends, and I'll let her talk about what she does when she gets on. And it's a topic that is it holds weight. You know, it's a serious topic, and it's a topic that affects many people indirectly. And it's it's a topic sometimes that has been overlooked within the Black community specifically. So I feel like we felt like it's something that we should address and talk about and deal with and talk. And so I wanna bring in. Give me a second. I wanna bring in my dear good friend Deborah, and then obviously I'll let her introduce herself and what she does, and then we can go from there and share, let people know what's going on. We don't want to keep you for too long. We'll be quite quick with that tonight, obviously. We don't want to stay too long, but yeah, man, let people know what's happening. Share within your networks. Comment, send messages, send questions if you have any, and we can kind of unite and about this common topic that hang with the community, but not many people talk about. So. Mr. Producer, would you mind doing the honors, please, and bringing our guest for tonight as we get on with it, Hello. I feel like I'm by myself in this. It's so weird talking to myself like this. It's so weird talking to myself like this, but yeah, man, it should be a good discussion. Should be a good discussion today. So we'll see. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. And don't be afraid to send your comments, messages, everything. We want to hear it all. Hold on, I think there's a bit of a technical, but just bear with us 1 second. Just sort this out. Yeah, If you can see me on live, you can hear me, give me a message, drop me something. Let me know what's going on. Let me know where you're at. Let me know where you're listening from. All that good stuff. You know what I mean? Let's unite. Let's network. Let's communicate. You know what I mean? Let's be one. Within the vibes.
Hey.
Yo, finally. Jeez, I don't know what happened there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we had a little technical issue there, but we're back. We're in.
It was good.
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, you're looking good.
Yeah, I had to show up,
Lockdown has been kind to you.
Listen, I had to get myself ready at least.
I hear that one. How's it going though?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I know that obviously there's been a few technical issues. So guys, bear with us.
Yeah.
It's kind of new, but we're here. That's
we're
the
trying.
most important thing.
We're trying.
It's cool. Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah, man. 100%.
We're here though. That's good.
Welcome. So obviously, as you've seen what we've done before, this is just a forum, a platform, if you may, for us to just kind of meet, talk, unite, network, all that good stuff, within our communities, within our networks, and discuss topics that, serious topics that are just vibes, as the title goes, and just kind of bounce ideas between each other and kind of go from there and see what we can come up with, you know what I mean? So welcome to the show. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you So I want to start like by just, you know, kind of overview who you are, you know, what you do, basically your background sort of thing, you know.
Yeah. You know them questions there where you're like, how do I even introduce myself?
Give me your CV.
So yeah, I'm Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my name, Debbie, and I am I'm Kenyan, if that you know, if it matters. I think it does. Yeah.
That's a good one, huh?
I'm Kenyan. I live in the UK, and in terms of my background, my career, I am a psychotherapist or a therapist or a counselor, whatever you identify with. And so I work with people who, or individuals who present with mild to moderate, sometimes severe mental health problems. And so that's what I do. So I'm a part of, you know, just a part of a, what do I call it? Sort of like an organization. Let me call it an organization now.
Right.
Which is called Insight AIE, which is basically AIE stands for Awareness, Inspire, and Empower. So
I didn't even know that. Say that again. Awareness, Inspire.
Awareness, Inspire, Empower. So that's what the AIE stands for. I know some people are like, well, Insight AIE, what does that AIE mean?
We just thought it's just letters you added to the end. Because the insight wasn't available, so you just thought, let's add something at the end.
No, it's basically awareness, inspire, empower.
That's beautiful.
So that's what it means. So I'm part of that. I do that. I'm you know, half of the co-found, like the founder. So there's me and my friend Susie, friend/partner Susie. So we do that together. We have a social media platform you know, Instagram, and we provide private therapy. And the reason why we started it was because we identified, obviously we work in the National Health Service. So we basically identified that there's less people that look like us that are accessing the service. But then the statistics show that there's more of us who need this, right? And most of the time when Black people get into mental health service, whatever that may look like, it's usually the severe end of the spectrum, which is basically the institutions, the mental health institutions, where they're basically detained in there. So yeah, so we just basically, we see that within that middle ground where before things get severe, people don't seek for help. It's when it's severe, that's when they're institutionalized. So and that's through maybe the police most of the time. When someone is basically really overwhelmed, and at that point they may be having a breakdown, and so you find someone who's basically, maybe their behavior is pretty like violent in that moment, and so the police will get involved, and that's how you find that people, you know, people that look at us end up in mental institutions. But so that's why we started Insight, because we were like, we need to basically break this stigma. We need to be a part of this movement to break the stigma and encourage people to basically start to seek help earlier on and know the signs earlier on, not just for yourself, but even for family members, friends, and you know, things like that. So for people to know those signs so that they can intervene earlier rather than leave it until it's severe.
Okay,
so that's a long introduction, but
no, but that's a very good introduction. So, you know, sometimes you have to, when you tell people to introduce themselves, they say, my name is Debbie. And that's it. That's the end of that. That was good. Wow. There's a lot to cover in that introduction. But I think I'll start with, so you said, like, within Black mental health, a lot of the time it's kind of something that is on the far end of the spectrum, where like it might be, no, I don't want to say too late, but like it's harder to catch it then. Right. Why do you think that is?
So I guess it's the stigma around mental health. I mean, if you and I come from Kenya, right? So if you think about how we see mental health, or how mental health has been perceived within the Black community, it's basically, it's either you're crazy, it's a spirit, it's a demon, it's witchcraft, it's all the other things apart from a mental health difficulty. So it's all those other things, and it comes with shame. It comes with no one wanting to speak about it because you don't want to bring shame to the family. You don't want the community to talk about you. All these things. So if you factor in all these things, it deters people from actually seeking help. And so what happens is people are quiet within the families. It's like sometimes you can see that there's something wrong. You can tell that there's something wrong, but because we don't want to talk about it, we don't say anything. So we let it go on. And then when we let it go on, it means that the only time maybe when it's severe, that's when intervention is basically it comes in. Well, that's where intervention comes in. And again, that's why I say that it's caught when it's severe, which it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be,
it should. We should literally be okay, because I always say this: if someone has a physical problem, we won't really be like, well, don't go see the doctors.
You tell them straight away.
You won't say that. And the thing is my or basically, let me not say my, but with Insight, what we try to do is we try to make it's a holistic thing. Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional well-being, and your spiritual well-being, they're all connected. You can't separate one from the other. If your physical health is under attack, guess what? Your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being will be affected. If any one of those areas is impacted on, it's going to impact all the other areas. So you can't separate it. So if you can see physical health and go to the doctor, if you have any emotional difficulties or any sort of psychological difficulties, go and seek the appropriate help.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so like if I'm going so far right now, but I feel like right now let's talk about this and then we'll come back a bit. So like as you said, the holistic health. So there's the elements of that. So like let's focus on the mental health aspect. So what would you say are the like telltale signs of someone like maybe early on, but we can kind of see there's something, something might be off, or something that we can talk about or nip it in the bud early on and address it? What are the kind of signs that you look out for as just a family friend, just colleague?
So that, I guess, is if you think about, also I'll kind of make comparison with physical health, because we're more aware of that, and we're more kind of we have more knowledge with that. We can all identify with physical health, I think. So if you can see physical health, there's so many different illnesses, right? When it comes to physical health. So it's the same thing with psychological health. There's different presentations that show up or can show up when it comes to mental health difficulties. So we have what we call common mental health difficulties, like depression and anxiety, right? Now, depression is basically something that majority of us will probably experience at one point in our lives, right? So 1 in 4 people struggle with mental health difficulties or will experience mental health difficulties in their life, right? 1 in 4. And that's not 1 in 4 white people. That's not 1 in 4. It's literally 1 in 4 overall. And so at some point in your life, you will experience some level of maybe difficulty, psychological difficulty. So when we talk about depression, let me maybe talk about depression. When we talk about depression, some of the things that you're looking out for are lack of motivation to do anything. Right. Wake up in the morning, don't want to get out of bed, don't want to engage in anything, don't want to talk to people, you don't want to talk to anyone, completely withdrawn. So that's one sign. When you find that you're having that for not just for 1 or 2 days, but at least for about 7 days, right? For about 7 to a week or 2. If you're in that space of, I don't want to talk to anyone, I don't have the motivation, I've lacked the motivation to do anything, lack of interest in the things that you enjoy, not doing them, or even if, so lack of interest in doing anything, not wanting to engage in any conversation or social engagements or talk to anyone, feeling really tired because you're not active, right? Thoughts of hopelessness, hopelessness in terms of like, nothing is going to change, my life is doomed, all those kind of thoughts. And hopelessness can look different for different people. Some people, it can go to the point where they have thoughts of, I don't want to be here anymore. You know, there's no point of me being here anymore. There's nothing for me to live for because things are not going to change, right? So there's those thoughts of hopelessness, and there are thoughts of even just, I'm a failure, you know, I've let people down, I'm a disappointment. Those kind of thoughts, self-critical thoughts about yourself, and also sometimes lack of concentration. So all these things, and I'm not isolating these things. If you're experiencing at least you know, a couple of these things for a period of time, for a specific period of time of maybe a week to 2 weeks, then that shows that, okay, I might be in a space of maybe experiencing depression right now. And at that point, it might be that you can seek the appropriate help, which might be, there's some self-help stuff out there on mental health to help you. But also there are services, free services out there that can also help. But there's also private, if you want to go private as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's just depression. Obviously, anxiety, there's different forms of anxiety. But anxiety is basically the way I can, if I can just maybe give a snippet of what it looks like. Anxiety is basically.
I think, sorry to cut you short. I think anxiety is something that people feel something, but they're not sure exactly what it is. They know they feel something, and they know that it's off. Something's off.
Yeah.
You know? So go on, carry on.
So anxiety will look like, sometimes people will be kind of like nervous. So and different things can trigger your anxiety. So you have something like your heart is racing, your mind is racing, you have like 1,000,001 thoughts going through your mind. For example, like sometimes people will think of the worst case scenarios, right? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? It's like and they can't shut their minds off, right? And that keeps them, because they're thinking of the worst case scenarios, that keeps them in a constant sense of anxiety, where they're feeling tense, where they're feeling like their heart is racing. Some people feel like they can't concentrate within their day, and some people feel like that you know, when people say that my belly kind of turns,
it's churning,
to go to the toilet, right? Exactly. That and a lot of people go to the doctors where they say that, I think I have IBS, but actually what it is, it's anxiety. Right. Because IBS is obviously that thing of constantly wanting to go to the toilet, right? But that is actually
that nervous belly.
Exactly, but that's actually anxiety. In most cases, it can be anxiety, and like I said, anxiety can be triggered with so many things. And sometimes people can experience, when it's overwhelming, it can go into what we call panic attacks, right? And those panic attacks is when your heart is beating like fast, right? It's beating really fast to the point where, one, you feel like, I'm about to have a heart attack. A lot of people feel like that, like there's something wrong with my heart, I'm going to have a heart attack. Sometimes people feel really hot to the point where they feel like they're going to pass out. Like, I'm going to faint, I'm going to collapse at any point. Or I'm going to suffocate, because they find it really hard to breathe, because they have like breathlessness. So they will find that the breathlessness, they'll feel like, I'm going to suffocate and I'm going to die, or I'm going to stop breathing at any point. So those are panic attacks, but they're different presentations as to how these can be triggered. Like I said, sometimes people just have what we call excessive worry, where they worry so much, they worry about different things. And when I say worry, worry is very, we all worry.
It's a broad term. Everyone worries.
It's normal to worry.
The morning you wake up, you're worried, what am I doing today?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's normal to worry, but when I say worry, I mean excessive worry.
Right.
Like, every single time you're thinking something terrible is going to happen, and you're very much you can't deal with uncertainty, basically. Uncertainty is one of those things that is so hard for you to deal with. And that causes you to worry. Every time you're presented with uncertainty, you start thinking about all the worst things that can happen.
Yeah.
And then that leads you to anxiety.
Right.
Another form of anxiety is what we call OCD, obsessive compulsion disorder, which is basically some people have OCD over something terrible is going to happen to me if I touch this thing, and then something's going to happen to me. I'm going to fall sick and then I'm going to die. For some people, it could be if I have a thought of doing something that tells me that I'm more likely to do it, right? And more so, that is not the case. We all have what we call intrusive thoughts. Like, for example, I always give this example, right? You can see someone holding like a cup of tea, right?
Yeah.
And a thought can go through your mind, like, what if I just knock the tea, right?
You know what that one is? It's like when you're on top of the building, you're just thinking,
yes.
What if?
That is exactly what it is. Some people can have that thought, like, oh, and I'm going to use that example that you've given, like when you're on top of the building and you feel that pull, like, what if I just jump right now? Like, what if? And some people even feel like that when they're on the train stations. They feel like, oh, what if I jump in front of the train and stuff like that? But the difference is, for if you have distress over it, like if you're feeling really distressed that, why am I thinking like this? Does it? Because some people will take that and they'll take that seriously. That means I want to. That means I want to do something to myself. But actually, it's not really that you want to do something to yourself. It's just what we call an intrusive thought. And a lot of us have these intrusive thoughts, but we don't place meaning to them. But when OCD comes in, people place meaning to these thoughts. So you have people who will drive and then they'll have a thought, did I hit someone? And they'll go back to check if they hit someone.
Wow.
Right? So because they want to make sure that they hit.
Is that like, when you leave the house and then you're like, did I turn the oven off? Is that like part of it? It's a similar ballpark. It's
similar, but we all have these thoughts sometimes. But someone who has OCD will check over and over and over again. They might take even half an hour to 40 minutes just to check the whole house. And some people even take pictures so that if they're at work and they think, wait, did I turn the iron off? Did I do this? And if they can't remember if they did it or not, that will then anxiety comes in, where they now start to like panic and things like that. So that's just, and then you have people who have what we call health anxiety, where they think that they might have a specific illness when they start to feel specific symptoms. Like if I start to, for example, if I start to maybe feel like my heart is kind of racing a bit, I might think that, well, there's something wrong with my heart. Some people might like look for a specific mole or something on there and they think that it might be cancer. So that there's health anxieties in that sense, and they're excessive, where they probably go to the GP quite constantly to seek reassurance to ensure that then there's nothing wrong. But it can be the other way, where people don't go to the GP because they don't want to know, because they feel like, what if the GP tells me that I do have cancer?
I think I have,
exactly. So there's different forms of anxiety. So that's just some of them. And obviously we have phobia, and that's something that we don't talk about.
Of course, that's part of it as well, isn't it? And I'm sure like anxiety, like even in this times of like what we're going through, Corona, the epidemic, whatever, the panoramic, as people call it, there's it's like the level of health consciousness went up at like 1,000 times. If you used to wash your hands one time before you left the house, now you're doing it 100 times. And that, I'm sure that's added onto it ridiculous amounts. Like, have you seen this kind of cases coming up where people are just, they can't take it, they can't bear it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have people who already have we loosely use this word OCD, right? Like that person's a bit OCD-ish, or I'm a bit OCD-ish, where I'm like a clean freak and things like that. And that's okay for most people, but OCD is basically like it's going to impact your life, like completely impact your life. People wash their hands with bleach to the point where the skin starts to basically come off, right? Because of how much they're washing their hands. So the difficulty that we're having, especially now we're in this pandemic, is that when someone's already having the sense of washing their hands, and the government is already telling you need to wash your hands consistently. So it's like, where's the benchmark? Like, what do I use? Do you get me? And even for us as therapists, we had to basically be a little bit more creative to actually figure out what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, right? Because pre-pandemic we'll be like, well, actually, let's have an experiment where you could just, you could touch your shoe and just eat a packet of crisps, right? So that those
now
to let you in on some of the experiments that we do.
So would you do that to kind of ease the anxiety levels and the OCD?
Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to help people to challenge their beliefs or their fear. Because if I fear that if I touch the shoe and then have a packet of crisps, I'm going to definitely die, right? So what we're trying to do is saying, actually, yes, there are germs on there, but is it to the extreme that you're going to get sick and you're definitely going to die? But obviously now with this pandemic, it's a bit tricky, right? It's a bit because you have to basically stay healthy. You have to stay woke, if that makes sense, in terms of like knowing what you're doing. So people's anxiety definitely went up in this pandemic. People anxieties, because especially one of the things that was we were so keen on telling people to do is limit how much news you're watching.
Right. Like the scaremongering.
Listen. The amount of the message that comes through of the amount of people who are dying. The messages that you're getting on WhatsApp about all these things that's happening. You have to limit how much. I mean, even I had to do it myself. I was like, you know what? I can't keep watching this, because I had to catch myself, because at one point I was like getting symptoms. I'm like, wait, hold on.
Could this be?
I'm like, my throat is feeling a bit. Do you get me? My throat feels a little bit tight, or I'm getting these symptoms, and then you start to basically go into this thing of worrying. That's something, and starting to have anxiety. So one of the things that you have to do is basically control and manage how much information you're taking in about this thing, because it can literally send you off to a state of anxiety.
And that's just a rabbit hole that never ends. Just
honestly,
keep going. Jeez.
Honestly,
wow.
Honestly.
Okay. Wow. That's intense. Let's take it back a little bit then. Let's take because I can't lie. It's the past year it's been crazy. It's been intense for everyone. And I'm sure I can't imagine what it's like if you suffer from mental health, and this is something you were suffering with before all of this. And now it's been amplified 100 times. And I can only feel for people like that. But I think I want to now kind of like backtrack a bit and kind of go to the beginnings of your journey within mental health and within psychotherapy. Is it psychotherapy?
Yeah, psychotherapy.
Therapy. Yeah. So like, where was this? Where did this journey begin for you? Essentially, is what I'm trying to say or ask. Is it something that you thought about passionately that you wanted to do? You saw someone that did it and wanted to do it. Was it like, or was it just something you studied and then kind of went down that path?
It literally, if you ask people that are really close to me, they'll tell you Debbie was going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
That was me. I was going to be a lawyer. And the reason why that is because I can debate with you. I can argue with you.
Yeah, you love it. Yeah, you love it. Yeah. I can vouch for that. Sometimes you just have to give up.
So basically, I initially wanted to be a lawyer, right? And then I went to uni, and then I ended up doing psychology, right? I ended up doing psychology, and then I was going to convert to law, right? I was like, and the thing is, when I did A-level law, I didn't like civil law. I didn't like the tort law. I liked criminal law. But then I was like, the criminal law is saturated, right? And I was like, do I really want to do this? Anyway, I thought, okay. So I ended up doing psychology, right? So I ended up doing psychology, and I thought if I could end up converting at the end of the year if I feel like, okay, I want to go back into law. But when I did psychology for the first year, I was like, I actually like this. So I ended up sticking with psychology. But when I ended up sticking with psychology, I didn't really know exactly what road I wanted to take or what path I wanted to take. And so a lot of the times when you do psychology, if there's anyone watching out there and you're doing psychology, please just know that it's not as easy as just finishing uni and getting job. It's not. It's not.
There's a lot to it, yeah.
There has to be some work experience that you're doing in the background, and you have to major in something. Basically, you have to go and do something else to like major it. So anyway, so I did it. I finished psychology and sociology, and then I took a year out because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So when I took a year out, I did some voluntary work here and there, and then I worked with individuals who had come out of prison, ex prisoners, and trying to get them back into society. So I was basically getting them, trying to help them to get back to work, helping them with their CVs, doing things like that basically, and working with their probation officers. And then from doing some voluntary work here and there, then I realized, you know what, I actually want to go into helping people in therapy. So I went into, long story short, then I went into doing masters for counseling and psychotherapy. And then that's how my journey started. And when I got into it even more, that's when I started to look into how Black people, we as Black people, interact with how we interact and relate to mental health.
Yeah.
So that's
even
when
the
I started
to
become.
Yeah.
Even the word mental health.
Yeah.
I personally didn't hear it growing up. I don't know about you, but I didn't hear anything.
You might hear you hear the word health. I mean, you hear the word mental. Sorry. You know what I mean? And that is a no. That's like associated with the worst of the worst. You know, you're someone that's in a straight jacket, and you know what I mean. That's the images we think of, I think.
And when I grew up, I mean, I grew up in Kenya. I came to UK when I was 12, right? When I grew up in Kenya, what mental was crazy.
Of course, that's it. Yeah.
The people that you saw walking down the streets that were doing a peculiar thing,
and you don't talk to them, you stay away from them.
You don't talk to them, you don't interact with them, absolutely nothing. And it's only when I went into studying this more, I was like, oh my gosh, like the people that I used to look at and be like, these people are dangerous, these people are violent, and this, that. I'm like, all they needed was someone who understood that it's a mental health thing, and they probably needed the right support and medication, and they could have lived a normal life like everyone else. So like you said, the word mental, we heard it, but it was literally, it correlated with crazy.
Yeah. Jeez, you're right on that. And that never helped anyone. That's never helped anyone. So like, I'm glad that we finally kind of having these conversations, and conversations like this are kind of allowed, not allowed, but they're in the open now. People can discuss these kind of things without feeling any sort of stigma, without feeling bad, without feeling like they're offending anyone or they're being offended. So I think that's a good thing, and it's a start. You know, it's a start, somewhere to start. But then, what would you say for, like, you know, parents that still have that conservative, old school, you know, thinking of mental health, and how to deal with that? Because if you're someone, for example, in a house that you feel like, especially during lockdown, you can imagine a lot of people have been in their houses with their parents the whole year, you know what I mean? And how would you advise someone in that kind of situation where they might feel themselves, they're positive about mental health and they want to deal with it, but then their parents, on the other hand, you know, they're conservative, they're old school. How would someone in that, would you approach that in that kind of situation?
So it depends with how old the person is, right? If you're over the age of 18, you can definitely, one thing I always say to people is, if you are wanting to seek help and go to therapy, and you don't feel like you want to tell someone, fine, don't do it. Don't tell. You know, look after yourself. Do what you need to do. Like when you're comfortable telling people, you can do that, right? So confidentiality is absolutely, if you go to therapy, one of the things as a therapist is I'm obliged to keep confidentiality. If I was to see someone today, I can't now go telling people, oh, this person seems so and so. Even if it was the most famous person, I can't say anything, right?
That's your safe space.
Exactly. So it's a safe space. So that's one thing. If you're over the age of 18, actually, some services even 16. If you're the age of 16, you can actually refer yourself to specific services without even your parents having to know, or anyone having to know, right? If you're under the age of 16, what you can do is maybe perhaps approach someone who is open to that, right? If it's a family member, if it's a sibling who is older or something like that, approach them and say, you know what, I feel like this, that, and I would like to basically have some support, right? And but what then happens is, especially, and this is a message to parents, because if your kids go to school, they can actually see that, teachers can identify these things, and it's better for you to identify it and seek the right support for your child, rather than maybe the teachers identify it, because when teachers identify it,
becomes a big
they'll
issue,
tell you, but they'll also tell social services kind of thing, like maybe this child needs some sort of intervention sort of thing. So I always say that for parents, please be open to the idea of helping your child. And sometimes what we find, and sometimes this happens within the Black community, is a child is so much struggling to the point where it's until they try to end their life.
And that's when it's taken seriously.
That's when it's taken seriously.
Wow.
Even when it's taken seriously, I mean, I've had people even when it's taken seriously, where that person has gone and gotten the right help, they don't talk about it.
Yeah. It's a hush thing.
It's a hush thing. Like the person comes back home and everyone's walking on eggshells, right? But no one's having a conversation to just basically be like, what actually happened? How did you get
to this place?
How did we get here?
Yeah,
and how can we help? What can we do to help? And normally what happens is, if someone has committed suicide, right, they're at a high risk to commit attempt.
Attempt again, yeah.
If someone has attempted suicide, they are at a high risk to make another attempt within a specific amount of time, right? So that's why when someone has attempted suicide, they have to be basically be connected with specific services, because there has to be some intervention there, right? Because the chances, the risk of them trying to attempt again
is higher. Right.
So a message for parents is be open to your for your children to basically come to you and say to you, I need help. And you may not know how to support them, right?
Yeah.
But you can find ways to support them.
There's ways out there.
There's ways out there to support them. But if you're over the age of 16, you can do it yourself, and you don't even have to tell anyone.
Jeez. Okay. Wow. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. But I feel like, as I keep saying, the good thing is, people want to have these conversations now. People are open to these conversations, especially like, people like our parents' age now. They having these conversations at work. They're having conversations within the community, and especially now living, abroad and stuff. You have to. These things are in your face. You can't hide from it. You know what I mean? These conversations have to be had, and people talk about these kind of things openly. So it makes you feel like you're the odd one out, not trying to address this kind of situation, which is, I guess, a good thing. You know what I mean? It kind of addresses the situation head on, and that's how it should be. So I think that's important,
Definitely. I've just seen someone said, how do you think as a community we can break the stigma around mental health?
I just saw that comment as well.
It's just basically this. Let's talk about it.
Let's open discussions.
Have discussions about it. Be open about it, right? Even just within specifically men. Right?
It's like you read my notes. That's the next thing I was going to ask. Like, specifically men, Black men.
Black men, we need to talk. Black men have a higher rate of suicide, right?
Not someone said, but I read a tweet the other day, and I said it when we started the show. Black men don't seek therapy; they start a podcast.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I'll put it on a t-shirt.
But that is also a form of therapy.
That's true.
It's also a form of therapy, because that person is talking about something, their experience, and that's what we need, people to talk about their experience, because when you don't talk about your experience, you're in your head. You're in your head. That's
that inside voice you're talking about. It starts growing.
You're in your head a lot of the times, and when you're in your head a lot of the times, what then happens is you can be quite biased. You don't have different perspectives, right? So when you, like you said, starting a podcast you're talking to other people, and when you share your story, someone else is saying, nah, but you know, they're giving you a different perspective. They're giving you another way of looking at it, which then it's like, oh. And also when you start to share, people embrace that, and when people embrace that, you kind of get that feeling of like,
I'm not alone in this.
I'm not alone in this. And a lot of the times when people start to share, that's when you hear someone else share, and they'll say, that's what I remember when I was going through this, or I had a similar experience, or a different experience but similar feelings or emotions, right? And at that point you start to know that I'm not alone. You know, I'm not alone.
Okay, so in terms of like, as going back a little bit, in terms of black mental health, black men specifically, like, you know, apart from podcasts, what advice do you have, you know, for, especially like, I'll be specific to London, or not London, but the UK. Growing up within the UK as a black man is such a, it's a tricky thing to navigate, especially from the ages of about 11 to 17, 18, you know, before you really find your footing and find your lane and whatnot. And, you know, you kind of, that age of teenagehood and growing up and kind of finding yourself, finding your feet, it can be so tricky, especially nowadays where social media is in play and you know, influences of outside influences. You know, what advice do you think you can give to maybe the older siblings or parents, or even the youth, the people themselves, the young black men in those situations?
So I think there are other factors to consider in terms of like socioeconomic factors to consider as well.
Of course.
When it comes to mental health within the black communities,
right?
Because the environment you're in definitely determines maybe how you know how you are, right? So because we're a lot of black communities are, you know, in these underprivileged areas, basically, right? So you have things like more susceptible to maybe crime, or you have to also look at schools in terms of the schools that they're in, and all these other factors. So for me, one of the things that is so important is, again, the environment, right? As a parent, is considering what type of environment am I basically creating for my child. And I know that for most people, they don't have the funds or the opportunity to basically up and move and go to maybe areas, whatever. So in those times, and the thing is for me, I think growing up, when I reflect back, what I come to see is that black boys are clever,
sharp.
Black boys are sharp. I mean, I remember being in school
100%.
and a lot of the black boys were so sharp. I remember having this guy, right? I remember having like this guy, right? And I was in the same math class as him, science, and I can't remember what other classes. And he literally, right, he would just listen. His way of taking in information is listen.
And it just stays. It just goes.
And it just stays. Ask him, has he done any homework? Does he revise? Nothing.
It's all in here.
As soon as it goes in, that's it. And when it comes to exams, he would smash it, right? But the environment that he was in,
it's not secure. Yeah.
His growth, right? And so the thing is, and I realized that sometimes in most cases, it's not even our fault, right? Because you have like a mom, a single parent household, single parent who has to go to work, right? They probably have to do a night shift. The boys, the child is at home by themselves, right? And that when people lack routine and structure, everything goes out the window, right? So for me, I think that what's most important, especially for the young ones, is let's expose them to different things, different activities, different all that kind of stuff, because the environment is so important. And also for parents, again, it's just looking out for signs. Look out for signs. When someone is sleeping the whole day, it doesn't mean that they're lazy.
It's deeper than that.
They're not lazy. But most of the time what you hear is, why are you sleeping? Why are you lazy?
It's being lazy.
Why are you not looking for work? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? The person is not lazy. The person is struggling. There's something much deeper than that. So understanding these signs, I think as parents, educating ourselves to notice these signs, right? so that you can support your child or your children in
Your
the
friends,
best way
kids, yeah,
possible.
just people around you, kids, yeah, kids around you, yeah, for real.
Absolutely. And for me, I also believe in having role models. That's one thing that I'm so passionate about when it comes to Black boys. I feel like Black boys need Black men. That's one thing I will always say, that Black boys need Black men
to look up to.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially in the community, within the environment they're growing up. Yeah, because I mean, it's all well and good seeing rappers, footballers, entertainers, etc. But they seem a mile away. They seem not even a mile away, 10,000, like so far gone. But within your own area, what you're seeing is what is going to affect you and what's going to influence you. And what you're seeing might not be positive.
Absolutely. And so, and I'm not saying that like single moms can't raise great Black men. I definitely believe that there are single moms out there that do such a great job with raising them.
To the single moms.
You know, they raise such great Black men. But I also feel like a woman can't really teach a man how to be a man. That's just my opinion. And so there are certain things, maybe as a young boy, they might need a man to talk to. They might feel more comfortable talking to another man, right? So that's the other thing that for me, that I feel like let's equip, as adults, let's equip ourselves with mental health tools so that we can be there for our young ones, right? But also as adults, especially as Black men, let's be open to the idea of being vulnerable. We don't like that word, right? Of being vulnerable. Let's be open to the idea of being vulnerable. Being vulnerable actually is strength rather than a weakness. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot to be vulnerable than it does to basically be strong.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That's true. That is very true. And just being vulnerable and being open and being yourself, being genuine yourself, because that's essentially what it is, being vulnerable. It's just being your genuine self and not being afraid to show your true colors, wear your heart on your sleeve. You know, that is so true.
Knowing who you're doing that with.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Know who your community, know who you're doing that with. One of the things I say is that you can have an oak tree has so many branches and so many leaves, but it doesn't have that many roots. Right? When the leaves, when summer comes, the leaves are there, they're popping. When it comes to winter, when it comes to autumn, winter, they're gone. They left the tree high and dry. High and dry. Branches, they can still kind of carry on, but they can still be cut off. Right?
Can easily be
but
cut,
the roots, no matter the come rain, come sunshine, come winter, whatever, the roots are still there, but the roots are not many. So you also have to understand, who are my roots?
I like that. That's
who
important.
are my roots? And they could be 2 or 3 people. And when there are 2 or 3 people, be comfortable in those 2 or 3 people, because they're your roots. So when you actually recognize that, when you start to see people fall off, you're like, all right, there were probably leaves or branches, so that's fine. I still got my roots.
I'm still grounded.
Exactly. So knowing who you can be vulnerable with is also important.
Wow. Okay, that's important as well. Yeah, I like that. That's important. Knowing where you're from, who you are, what you stand for, all that good stuff. Okay, that's true. Wow. So I guess one thing that does affect, or that kind of people fall towards when they feel a certain way, especially those ages, could be like addictions and things that they feel can relieve the pain. So to speak, you know, addictions to drugs, alcohol, all those kind of things, and it's something that we're susceptible to as a community, especially, you know.
Listen, don't get me started on
the East African, Kenyan community is something that is so normalized, and it is what it is. It's seen as that's how it's seen, you know. So I'm not really sure what the question is, but essentially, what's your take on that, and how do you deal with that, basically?
Listen, this is something that I always say, don't get me started, because I'm tired of the Kenyan community basically normalizing drink. I'm tired. I'm tired because it's destroying our men. That's essentially what it's doing. It's destroying the men. Because it's like we've normalized alcohol to the point where, let's call it what it is. It's alcoholism.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Kenya and you find that someone is, we pride ourselves for how much drink we can have, and we can handle our drink and all these things. But really and truly, when you deep it, it's like we normalize it. So when someone's going through something, the way they find that they can cope with something is through drink. Right, is by drinking. And the thing is this is the key thing. When you go out with someone, right, and they drink, we don't even identify that this person is probably going through something. To us, we're all having a good time, right? So at what point do we know that wait, hold on, this is not okay, this person is actually going through something, and they're using drink to be, but because it's normalized, even if they are going through something and using drink as a way of coping, we won't be able to notice it.
It is what it is. Yeah.
You won't be able to notice it at all. So for me, I'm like, one of the things that I think I've had these discussions with a few people is, let us call it what it is. It's alcoholism. It is alcoholism. And I'm not saying that everyone who basically drink is alcoholic.
No, I mean, it's proportional.
We normalize. Okay, let me put it like this: we normalize excessive drinking.
That's it. That's actually it. That's the nail on the head. Yeah.
We normalize excessive drinking, and when we normalize excessive drinking, it means that when someone is vulnerable, they can use that as a way of coping, because we've already normalized excessive drinking.
So I mean, like, okay, now that we established it's a bad thing, how do we deal with it? Because like, honestly, it's something that comes up so many times when people have these kind of conversations, that people just now, you know, like it's so normal within our community that even the conversation just goes over people's heads. It's just like, oh well, it's just that's him. He's like that. She's like that.
Yeah. I think again, it goes back to us. It's an individual thing as well. Like now that you have this information, the change has to start with me.
Be the change you want to see.
Be the change that you want to see. I can't point the finger at you, right? When I am doing the same thing,
right?
I have to work on me to be able to be an example to you, right? So if I am the person who I'm like, wait, actually, when you get that awareness, when we have that awareness, and you're like, wait, actually, it's true. We do normalize excessive drinking, and we have to ask ourselves, what are we teaching the next generation? How do we want the next generation to be? Right? So by doing that, when you have that awareness, you're like, okay. One question I was in therapy that I always ask someone is, if this was your child in the same position as you, what would you say to them? What would you do?
Because that kind of puts a mirror to yourself, innit? Put a mirror to yourself and just kind of question yourself. One of the things is, if your child was in the same position as you, how would you manage it? How would you handle it? So if having that awareness, you get to the point where it's like, okay, I'm having this awareness, I have to change this. So then when I change this, then I start to change the environment around me. And of course, you can always seek help. There's always help out there. But it's that first step, acknowledging that it's an issue. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest step.
Yeah. If you get up in the morning and you feel like you need a drink to help you cope, then
questions need to be asked.
Questions need to be at that point.
If
you get up in the morning and you feel like you need a drink to kind of manage your day and get through the day, then there is something if you're having withdrawals, then that's definitely something that you need to seek help with. But like you said, Ken, it's basically understanding. And the thing is even if you have the knowledge and you're trying to help someone else, if they themselves don't acknowledge it, there's only so much that you can do, right? Because the person has to be able to accept it themselves first and say, actually, I have the understanding that there's something that's happening here that I need to seek help for.
Take a step forward and do it.
If they don't see it, it's going to be really difficult to get them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't bring something to someone's attention, but in love. Not as condemning the person, but in love. And once you've raised it as an issue, it's up to them. You know, it's not up to you to make that change. It's up to them to basically make that change.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. So personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. That's where it starts. Personal responsibility.
As a community, we have to first, because the thing is in the community is us. It's you and me.
Yeah.
And so
we make the community 1, 2, 3 people. Yeah.
So if the community is me and you, then me and you have to be like, okay, let's make that change, me and you, so that we can influence other people to do the same.
Move on. Yeah. Okay. Oh wow. So okay. Moving on. I think so now someone has kind of acknowledged it, and they've started dealing with it. With what they feel is their problem for themselves. What's your take on drugs, and not drugs per se, like that we know drugs, but like drugs to help with mental health that people
like prescribed meds.
Prescribed, exactly. So like, because that's another stigma that yes, you can talk to someone, but don't take the drugs because that will mess you up. That's something that people are told for a long time. You know what I mean? Especially in the community.
Yeah. It's I think that comes from a place of not trusting the institutions, right?
I think that's a black thing as well.
We really don't.
Old.
We really don't trust the institution, which is the same thing with the vaccine. So like all that kind of stuff. But with medication, one of the things that is important to recognize is I'm going to say this. Statistics show that if you go to the GP, right, GPs are more likely to offer antidepressants than therapy to Black people than to the white counterparts.
Wow. Repeat that again.
So GPs are more likely to offer antidepressants to people of ethnic minority groups, right? But compared to their counterparts, their white counterparts.
Wow.
Now, this is where, for me, education is so important.
Right. Yeah.
Not education in that sense, but education about mental health, right? Information about mental health is so important, right? Because the reason is, one is sometimes GPs will probably say this person is probably not going to want to go to therapy. Why? Because we have a stigma about therapy, right? So antidepressants.
They've already put their pre-assumptions in play.
Antidepressants, here you go, right? And if you're not basically well versed, right, where you can be like, well, actually, no, I do want to go to therapy.
You just take it.
You probably, and sometimes people take it, but they don't take it.
They'll take it from the doctor, but they'll get home and take it.
They'll take the medication.
Yeah. I'll take it home, but I won't take it.
They won't take. But then what happens is things deteriorate because, one, you're not taking medication. Two, you're not having any sort of talking therapy either. So things deteriorate.
You're still
and then you go back to the GP, right? And you say, "Oh, things are not changing." And then guess what they're going to do? They're going to up your dose because they're going to think that the medication that they gave you is not working. It's not strong enough. So let's do this. Let's up your dose.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing. There are some situations where medication is necessary. I'm not going to banish and say you don't need medication. There are some instances where medication is necessary, especially when your mental health is on the severe spectrum. Medication is required. And I would advise medication, right? But if you're having like what I call common mild to moderate mental health problems, like maybe depression, where it's mild, it's probably not. You can definitely say, I don't want medication. I want to try talking therapy first. I mean, I get people from where I work. I get people, if I've worked with quite a few Black individuals who have said to me, my GP offered me medication, but I didn't really want medication. I wanted to have talking therapy.
Someone to talk to, yeah. And a lot of the time in the beginning, that's what you need sometimes. So a stranger, someone that you don't know, someone that's not gonna judge you, to talk to.
Absolutely. So, and then the other thing as well is this is why I say that this is why I do what I do. This is why Insight does what we do, because we want to basically put it out there. Because the other thing as well is, when you know these specific symptoms, when you go to the GP, you know what you're talking about. You know how you're reporting the symptoms. Because what happens is GPs kind of misdiagnose something because the way the symptoms are being reported. So you might go to the GP and say, you know what, I'm struggling with sleep.
Yeah.
I'm just struggling with sleep. The GP would then give you sleep.
Yeah.
But the thing is what it shows is that white counterparts are very good at basically describing their mental health like their symptoms.
But it goes back to that thing of trusting the institutions, isn't it?
Exactly. But also it goes back to how much do we know about mental health, how it looks like, how it presents itself, so that when I go to the doctor, I can say this and this and this is what's happening, so that they can give me the appropriate intervention. So it's the same thing. Because if we look at people within the Asian community, for example, they report their symptoms based on their physical. Their mental health is physical for them. So they will say, I feel pain here, I feel like this, but actually it's
mental health.
It's mental health. But if you're a doctor who probably doesn't know that is what, if you're from the Asian community, that's how they might present their mental health difficulties, you might just give them pain medication.
Yeah, assuming that's just a physical thing.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Okay, jeez.
But yeah, medication is, let me say this, medication is necessary in some cases. I'm not going to say that medication is not to be taken. It's necessary in some cases where severe mental health issues are there. So say, for example, like schizophrenia, bipolar, such kind of, major depression, those areas, there's certain areas where, medication may be necessary. But if it's like mild and you're basically, you can function and things and you just need some sort of support, then you can tell your GP that actually, can I just have talking therapy instead?
Okay, jeez. So it's just about being educated on these things and being educated on the triggers and things that to look out for and stuff like that. And then kind of understanding how it will make you feel and what you can report on and kind of going off that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love what you asked me before in terms of like, what are the things that I should look out for? How do I know that I have depression? How do I know that I have anxiety? That's so important, because when you know those symptoms, then you can go to your GP and say, I'm experiencing this, that. And then they might say, okay, can we offer you some antidepressants? You say, no, I want talking therapy. Sometimes, like I said, medication and talking therapy together do work. Sometimes people say, I want to try talking therapy first, and then if that doesn't work, I can include medication in that. Yeah. So it's not one glove fits all. Of course.
It's just like anything else. It's health, mental health. It's all the same, So it's true. Yeah. That's very true. Okay. All right. Well, big up the Insta crew, YouTube crew. But for sticking with us. I think we're gonna start wrapping up soon. But I think obviously lockdown, we're still here.
Yeah.
They need to let us out now. It's enough. But while we're still here, what you say?
I'm like, let me be free, man.
Honestly, it's not easy, man. And like, some of us are lucky, we have family around and stuff. But like, if you're in that situation where there's no access to friends, family, going out, gym, anything, like it's just you and that's it. Like, what's your advice for someone in that situation? And like, how do you deal with that? And also, just before you answer that, if anyone has any questions they want answered, anything they want to talk about before we wrap up, send it in now, and then we'll address it. But like before that, what would you say to people in those situations and how to deal with that?
So I know that there's befriending services. There are services who are basically there to basically give their time, whether it's online or over the phone, to people who feel alone and feel like by themselves. So that's something that's out there. There are groups that are out there. There, for example, there's some organizations that are called Wellbeing Network.
Okay, right? I think I've heard it. Yeah.
Like Wellbeing Network, where you can basically tap into those wellbeing networks where they run groups, right? And they not only do they run groups of people to come and connect, but they also give some tools and tips of how to basically stay well, quite healthy, right? For good well-being.
Right.
So that's one. If you're finding that you don't have anyone and you're by yourself, please don't feel like you have to be by yourself. Even if you go to your GP and say, I am looking, is there any way that you can point me to the right direction where I can find it? The GP will basically find a way, or even if they don't have the information themselves, they will look for the information and lead you to something. Lead you to the direction of how you can get this. So that's one. If you do have family and friends, but you find that you're pretty much withdrawn, I'll give you a tip, right?
Go on.
Routine is so important. I know it sounds so cliche, right? But routine is very important. And what the pandemic has done is it's chucked our routine out the window. And for someone, maybe if you had work, because most people don't have work, they've lost their jobs. So that sense of routine has gone. So that sense of provision has gone as well. So they're in a state of, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And especially if you're already suffering from mental health in the first place.
Exactly. Absolutely. And these can be actually contributing factors or triggering factors as well.
Right.
Yeah. So even if you don't have a specific workplace that you're going to, try and have a routine in your day. Right? Try and have a specific routine. But even in your routine, don't do things or put things down and how can I put this? Don't have high expectations that you can't meet.
So be realistic with yourself.
Be realistic with yourself. What you can do is get up, brush your teeth, wash your face, have breakfast, and maybe do something else, one chore or whatever, and go for a walk or something. If that's what you can do, and then start to build up
off on that,
right?
off the back of that,
Off of that. Because what happens is you might then put so many things in your routine and then you don't accomplish them, and then at the end of the day you end up feeling like crap.
And that you start beating yourself on things like that, and it comes back to this.
Have a loop where it's like, I feel like crap. When I feel like crap, I don't do, then I beat myself up for not doing. So it's like this cycle that you find yourself in, right? So number one is have a routine, but be realistic with your routine. And then you can build your routine. Right? So that's number one. Routine is so important. We underestimate sleep. Sleep is so important. I mean, I'm guilty for this sometimes, where if I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to work. Sleep where? Sleep routine where?
Gone out the window.
It's gone.
Netflix, here we come.
No, sleep where? So that's also so important. Sleep is really, really important, right? Activity is also so important. A form of activity. And as I say these things, there's a reason, there's a biological reason behind it, right? I'm gonna get a little bit biological now, yeah.
Go on.
I'm gonna give a little bit of biology.
Let's get into it.
So there are 3 things that are so important to make us feel good, like feel good hormones.
Okay.
Dopamine,
come on,
endorphins, and what we call oxytocin. Right? Endorphins you get when you get that rush. Yeah. So when you do a workout, what you're releasing is endorphins.
You feel good after.
And you feel good after.
Right.
When you achieve something, what you're doing is you're releasing what we call serotonin, as well as endorphins sometimes, right? So then you feel good about it. You feel good about yourself. Oxytocin, basically, and this is why when kids are born, when babies are born, the first thing they'll do is they'll do skin to skin. Because it releases, it helps with the connection. Because it releases that hormone of oxytocin where you feel loved, you feel you're making a connection, right? So that's gone out the window at the moment because we're not having that contact, like touch to touch for most of us. But if you do have someone in the house, I beg, go hold, cuddle a little bit, kiss, touch, whatever that is. But also, even if you don't have that, that connection, that skin to skin connection, it's okay to have a video call, have a video chat with someone, talk to someone on the phone. Don't withdraw, because this is the thing. Depression will tell you, I don't want to talk to anyone. And that's what's best for me. But what that does is it makes things worse, because you dig yourself into a hole even deeper. Let me ask you a question, right?
Go on.
If you fell in a ditch and someone chucked a rope or a shovel, which one are you using to get yourself out?
Is the rope attached to the? Is the rope attached? Can I climb up with the rope? Or is the rope just thrown in with nothing attached to it?
The rope is thrown in.
There's no anchor. It's just a rope.
You have to figure yourself out.
And I have to use one of the two.
Well, you have to use one of the two.
Where? I can't lie. The shovel seems like the most. But I don't know.
Why the shovel?
You know what I'll try and do? This is gonna sound so technical, but I'll try and dig into the sand to dig steps to try and climb up.
But what are the steps? What steps are you? Where are you getting the steps?
Into the sand, isn't it? You dig a little step, you step on it, you dig another step, you step on that. Or is that a bit too far fetched?
Think about when you use a shovel. What are you using a shovel to do?
To dig.
To dig what?
To dig further down or into yeah.
So what people do is the reason I asked you that question is because when people are going through a mental health difficulty, the tools that they use, right? They're using shovels.
Just getting worse and worse.
So by not connecting, by completely withdrawing, by not doing anything, by laying in bed the whole day, and I know that's what it feels like. It's like you said, the instinct that you get first is like, yeah, shovel, like let me dig myself out. That's the first instinct that you get.
Yeah.
But actually, that's not what it is. That's not what the most helpful tool is going to be. And think about it. The rope is going to take you. It's going to take you like strength to go up that rope, right? But it's the most necessary thing, and it's the same thing with when you're feeling depressed. Those activities, as hard as they feel, they're so important. And so, what I always say to people is, don't work from the inside out. Work from the outside in. And what I mean by that is don't do things based on how you feel, especially going through a mental health difficulty like depression. Don't feel and then do and then feel.
That's important. It's important,
because when you say I'll see how I feel and then I'll do it, your feelings going to tell you don't do it.
And you can't be carried by your feelings in life.
So when you say, actually, let me do this and then reflect on how that makes me feel.
Be a doer, as they say in the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So be a
doer.
Do and then feel. So that's especially in this pandemic.
Yeah, of course.
Routine is so important. Connection is so important. Activity is so important.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so those checkpoints, just keep an eye on those, and just keep an eye on yourself and how you feel, and just do and see what you feel after. That's very important. All right. Absolutely. I like those. We had a question on the Instagram. I nearly missed it, but I just saw it. It's about the kind of the phrases that are thrown around in social media. Men are trash, etc. What do you think of those kind of statements? They're such broad statements, and they kind of feed into such a stereotype, because essentially, let's be real, they're not talking about white men.
Yeah,
it's very specific to us. You know what I mean? It's a Black community thing, and it's very specific to our people. And obviously, Black Twitter, they run with that, and it's become a thing now for years. And as much as people might understand, like I understand. As a man, it's a joke, whatever. We're not going to take it seriously. But there is that element of the younger ones kind of see this and feed onto that and latch onto these kind of things and feed into them, and it becomes a thing that you believe that now is true. You know what I mean? So like statements like that. What's your sentiments on that?
I think, like you said, some people see it as it's a joke. It's not something serious. But the thing is if someone is already, or someone has gone through their life hearing that they're not good enough, right? And then they see such statements, it feeds into already what they've already experienced, right? So this is the thing where we can't control the internet. That's one thing. We can't control that. So this is where awareness is so important for the individuals, because I can't tell the whole world, let's not use men are trash, this hashtag of men are trash. We can condemn it, but whether it's going to stop, that's a whole other thing. But let's have a conversation to say, you know what, if you're being affected by this thing, let's deal with it. Because the men are trash thing comes from a woman who's hurt.
So what you're trying to say is it comes from a bad place, a toxic place. To use that word.
I'm saying it can come from a toxic place where maybe and I'm not saying that maybe how the woman was treated was right.
But there's there's a background there.
Exactly. There's a background of where it comes from, where maybe someone has gone through relationships where they've been treated in a specific way, where they've just cancelled out men. They said, let me just cancel out men and just say they're trash. But the thing is what I can say is an overgeneralized statement. And one of the things in therapy that we teach people is how you process information.
Because there's so much information these days, you can't escape it. Especially now, you're just at home, you're on your computer, you're on your phone, you're on TV. Like, there's so much to take in. Yeah.
So how you process information in terms of how you interpret situations. And the thing is if I say to you, Ken, you're always late, I'm overgeneralizing. If I say, Ken, you're always chatting rubbish, I'm overgeneralizing, right? Because when I make statements like always, or when I make statements like men are trash, I'm basically painting the brush and to
the same brush.
And that's not really a healthy statement. So again, even though we can't change certain things that happen in social media, it's having an awareness of how is it affecting me? How is this? What is it triggering in me as a man? When I see this, is it triggering something in me that maybe I need to address in me, so then I don't see myself falling into this category of men are trash? Right.
And in terms of the people that say it, the women, toxic, address them too.
Listen, the thing is I always say that when something has happened to you and it's traumatic or it's affecting you, like I said, I feel like that came from a place of someone who was hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And so I say hurt people can hurt people. You know, there's that statement where hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Right. Where I feel like I need you to feel what I'm feeling.
The pain that I'm feeling, the pain that I'm carrying.
The pain that I'm feeling, the pain that I'm carrying.
It's like when they say misery loves company.
Yes. So there's that statement that misery loves company, because you're familiar with that pain. So it's like if you're going through pain, I'm going through pain, and let's all kind of sit in that, and we're familiar with familiar with it kind of thing. So I would say if anyone thinks that men are if you carry the statement that men are trash, I would normally say that, seek self as well.
Look inside yourself.
Yeah, because and this is the thing. I love my women, and I stand up for them, because no one is perfect, because men have their things that they need to deal with. Women have the things that they need to deal with. But what I always say is, if I find myself being in toxic relationships all the time, I need to then look at myself and think, what is
it about me? You're the common denominator.
Attracting this kind of men. Right. And it's not to say that it's your fault. Don't get me wrong. And this is where information processing comes in, right? how you're hearing me and receiving what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's your fault, but what I'm saying is that maybe you ought to look at how is my journey to where I am right now? My experiences maybe, right, have led me to this place where I find myself attracting different people who maybe are trash.
It's important. I hope the ladies heard that one, because that one is a deep one, you know. Don't just listen, hear.
Yeah, but even men, you got to do right, because even
No, of
yourself,
course.
you have to think about
100%.
what is up with me that I keep maybe letting women down as well, and hurting women, and not committing to relationships.
What is it? It's because of
Yeah,
something else.
what's up with me as well? Because I think in this situation, what I'm saying is we need to stop pointing the fingers less and point the finger towards us.
And
So
that's the
even
hardest
for
thing to do,
you,
that you said earlier.
if you're hearing different women that are calling you trash, you also have to ask yourself, what makes me trash? Do you get me? Why are they saying that to me? Let me look within and figure out what is it that for me as well.
That was a good one. That was a good one. Thank you for that question. That was a good one. If you have any more questions before we wrap up, we're about to wrap up. Send them in quickly. I think I think I'll finish with this one. So when I started in the beginning, I asked you who are you, introduce yourself, etc. And one of the first things you said was you're Kenyan. My name is Debbie. I'm Kenyan.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, because identity, you know, is an important thing. You said about being grounded in your roots and stuff like that, and that's part of identity. Identifying, knowing who you are, and being firm in that. You know, being rooted in yourself. So like, you know, we're lucky in the sense that we understand our culture. We've kind of experienced back home and we've experienced here. But there's, you know, the kids now who are born here, and their parents kind of came over, or maybe came over a bit younger, but now they've had kids, and now their kids are kind of the ages of secondary school, and they're getting older and older, but they're having that identity crisis. They're going through that stage of like, you know, essentially, who am I? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is that element of Britishness within them. They've grown up in the system. Their parents have adopted the British system because they've been here for so long, but now they also see the Afrocentricness of wanting to be African, and I'm Kenyan, and I wear the bracelet too. Do you know what I mean? There is that aspect of, come on. There is that. There can be a clash of identity crisis in the stages. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that again, it's about an environment, because I always say that if you're born in the UK and brought up in the UK, then eventually there's going to be values and whatever culture, you know, English culture that is going to be instilled in you. But it's also, I say it's the responsibility of the parents. It's up to the parents, because the thing is I always say that kids only have so much that they are in control of. A kid has so much that they're in control of. So as a parent, it's up to you whether you want to expose your child to, you know, to their culture, to learn their culture.
And I guess kids are sponges. They intake what they see and what they give.
Absolutely. So it goes back to, but if you are, again, I go back to, if you're in you're an adult, you're 18 and above, and you feel like, actually, I want to go to Kenya, I want to go and find out who's my shoshos, who are my wukas, who's my family. I always say this to my clients, right? Once you hit 18, no one has the power to control you. No one has the power to do anything. You get to decide who you want to be. When you're under 18, yes, you have less in control of. But the minute you turn 18, you now get to choose your path and decide, what do I want to do? So if you're in that place of, I feel like I'm struggling, like I want to identify as where I'm from, I want to have some sort of identity where I'm from, and I feel like I don't have that, you have the opportunity to make that happen for yourself. You know, you can do that yourself. If you need to basically connect with a specific community, connect with that community, go and connect with that community, and start to basically learn certain things about but your community. But saying that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're less, you can identify less with that culture, because you're probably less knowledgeable about that culture. If you're Kenyan, you're Kenyan.
Yeah. And it's just a matter, yeah, as you said, it's just a matter of educating yourself and taking that responsibility upon yourself. If you feel like that's something that you want to explore further, it's something, it's not going to be forced fed to you. It's going to be something you have to go out and find yourself. And I think that's very important to realize that. And I guess that comes with age as well, though, maybe, you know, as you get older, you start wanting to really know yourself. So as you said, 18 is a good age to start thinking about those things and start looking back and wondering and questioning yourself and your roots and stuff like that. So that's a very good one. I think that's a very good one. And if you want to find out more, if you want to follow us, you know what I'm saying, MamboZuri.com. They're a platform for all Kenyans, especially young Kenyans.
Definitely.
Check us out. Okay.
Keeping me updated with what's the latest in Kenya. That's quite good.
Come on. We have to always know. We have to always keep up with what's going on back home because we're still Kenyan at the end of the day. You know what I mean? As much as we live here, we're Kenyan. We're Kenyan in spirit, and we're Kenyan in mannerisms.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. There's a last question that I just saw about sexuality within the African community and the impact it can have on mental health, because you know sexuality is another one of the other ones that is not discussed at all. Do you know what I mean? Alongside mental health, you know, and again, it goes back to the fact what I was saying about now these things are becoming commonplace to discuss, and it's fine to discuss them, and it's encouraged to discuss them.
Yeah.
You know, but we're still in the African and Asian, I guess, ethnic minority communities. We're still very much frown upon these subjects. You know, especially the older generation.
Yeah.
You know? How would you address that, and how would you, you know, especially in the community, like in the past year, like someone who's been maybe at home with their parents, they're going through a health crisis, and they're going through maybe like a identity crisis of sorts.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot to handle in a situation like that. And maybe you're not 18 yet, you're still quite young. Do you know what I mean? Or you're already maybe past 18, but still, you know, you're still going through this kind of thing. Like what would you say in terms of that?
I always say that there's there's organizations for everything out there. Like you don't have to go through this yourself. Like your family may not understand you, but there are people out there that do understand you, that can help you. The first step that you've got to do, especially when it comes to sexuality, because sexuality is one of those things where, again, like you said, within the Black community, it's a taboo subject. Where if someone is basically identifying as homosexual, or they're struggling to figure out their identity, their sexual identity and stuff. It's something that is really like frowned upon and not discussed. And I always say that even if you don't agree with something, right, it's okay to have a conversation about it. And even if you don't agree with someone's choices, right, or how they live their life, it's still okay to love that person.
Yeah, of course.
It's still okay to accept that person and love that person. But if you are the person, I saw this thing where it said that your family are the family are the people who can have the opportunity to basically break you
or make you,
right? But if you think about it, family are basically the people who can hurt you the most are your family, your closest
to you.
Right? So it's so important that in those situations to try and connect with people who can understand you. Don't go through it alone, because people end up taking their lives because of this.
That's important to understand.
People end up taking their lives because of this. Please go connect with people who understand you. And they will support you and walk with you until the point where you feel like I can stand on my own. But in the meantime, please, again, I say there are organizations out there that can definitely help you through this.
Yeah.
There are groups out there that you can connect with that can help you. Don't feel like your family has to accept you for you to be able to be free. You can be free without your family accepting you.
Right.
And I say it's easier said than done. But for your own mental health well-being, connect with people who will understand what you're going through.
And that's important to be understood. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I think we're gonna wrap up here. That was such a beautiful conversation. The comments I'm seeing, that people love that, and that was something that we're gonna have to do more. And please, I would love to have you again. Please, we'd love to have you discuss other things, and we'll definitely host you again if you're willing to come on.
I'm willing to come on.
Yeah,
it's good. It's
Thank
good.
you for your time.
Have conversations. Have more conversations.
Yeah.
I just want to basically end with this, guys.
Go on.
I kind of we kind of put this post up on Instagram, and I said that no one, not your parents, your spouse, your spiritual leaders, and I'll put there your therapist too, or your friends. No one can save you from anything, right? No one can make things right for you. They can support you in your journey of making things right, but they can never do it for you. Even when you go to a therapist, best believe you're going to a therapist and you're going to have to do some work. I think sometimes I find people come into therapy and they sit back as if like, well, go ahead and fix me then.
Fix me.
I'm like, I can't do that. I can support you through the journey, but you're going to have to do it yourself. So please, if you're in that stage where things have happened to you, whether growing up or in your life, things have happened to you that were out of your control, that you didn't subscribe to that, but it happened to you anyway, right? And it sounds unfair that you get to basically deal with something that you didn't inflict upon yourself. Like growing up, how your parents treated you, how they spoke to you, all these things, or how other people, maybe some people have gone through abuse and things like that. It's unfair that you got to go through that, right? But the thing is you've got to think of it like this. Now that I'm here where I am, I have to take responsibility for my happiness. As much as you didn't inflict that on yourself, and it's not fair. If you wait for people to make it right, it will never happen. Because human beings can disappoint, right? And you can't control someone else. You can't control what someone else does, but you can only control what you do, because you're in control of that. So please seek support. If you need, you can only do work on yourself. Right. So do that for yourself. If anything, do it for yourself. Don't wait on other people to basically do it. And I know sometimes people are angry and bitter, and that's fine. That's all a part of the process. But get support to help you navigate through all that.
Yeah. And just acknowledge how you feel as well. You said earlier, acknowledge the feeling that you feel and do something about it. Okay. So what are 3 steps? Last thing. 3 steps that you think, practical steps that people can take to kind of alleviate or help in this period before Boris lets us out of this shenanigans.
So first step is awareness. You can't change something if you're not aware of it. That's number 1. Awareness in terms of, and when I mean awareness in terms of how things are impacting you, how your life is at the moment. Maybe you're, again, like I said, you're pretty withdrawn, not doing much, not worrying about the future so much. You're not being in the moment, right? Awareness is number 1. Once you're aware of something, please do something to change it. Make a plan. Actually, once you're aware of something, make a plan. Make a plan, whether it's a routine, whether it's connecting with people, whether it's speaking to someone, whether it's doing something, make a plan. And then step 3 is implement the plan. But be realistic with the plan.
So three practical things. You can just be wake up in the morning, I want to just do 1, 2, 3, but nothing, things that I know I will do. Yeah. And just hit those targets. And then
sometimes I work with people where all they can do is, and all I ever get them to schedule to do is literally wake up and open their curtains. That's all they need to do for the day. That's
the goal they've hit.
That's their goal for the day. Wake up and open the curtains, and that's it. Then build from that. The next week, okay, last week we did open the curtains. Can we shower?
And then you just keep building on that. And then next week, can we go outside? Can we?
Yes. Can we go outside?
Wow.
Can we do this? Build on that. And that's how it starts.
Wow. Okay. I think that's wow. That's important. Just understanding yourself and building on the little things that you can do.
I'm really sorry that we didn't get to, because mental health is such a broader thing. So there probably
one last thing I just came in my head right now, which is just cover it within a sentence or two. But religion and mental health. That's a
huge topic.
That's a big one. I just want you to say quickly.
Okay, let me say this.
Yeah, because religion and mental health are two things within the Black community that they just don't seem to go, and then they don't seem that they're meant to. Like one is there and one is there. You're not meant to mix the two. But go on.
Okay, in a short way to basically explain it is they can mix. Like I said, your spiritual, physical, psychological, emotional, all connected. So if your spiritual is connected, it might affect the rest. If your mental health is affected, your spiritual might be affected. So you can't separate the two. You can't see one at this end and see another one at this end. They're both connected. And so the thing is I always say this, if God can send people to do specific things, why can't God send a therapist to help you?
Wow. Yeah.
If God made doctors to help us, if God made scientists to basically help us survive in this, why can't God then have a therapist to help you? Mental health.
Okay.
That's what
they should go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You can't separate them. Like
as much as you pray, you should also seek mental health therapy.
As much as you pray, you can also seek mental health. As much as you pray, you also go to your doctor.
No, you're right. It's just as much as you pray for money, you'll also go to work in the morning. So I hear that. You know what I'm saying? God loves a try and a doer.
Can I have some money sent to me? God, can I have some money sent to me?
God ain't got Monzo, God ain't got Monzo. He's not gonna bling bling. Nah, G. You gotta go out there and hustle.
Absolutely. That's a really great example. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've got to pray and seek therapy too.
Yeah. Okay. So they go hand in hand. Okay. All right then. Well, shout out to everyone that was locked in. Who else? Yasmin, Vic, that's my guy. Susan, Ramos, that's my guy. Joe, Angel, all the way in Canada. Wow. Becca. There were so many people locked in and just sending in questions and engaging, because this is such a topic that sometimes can, as we said in the beginning, can just get looked over and brushed over and said, you know what, as Africans, we're fine. We deal with it. We're tough. You know what I mean? That's a white man thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's important to be having these conversations in the open and have these conversations on forums like this. You know what I mean? So
thank
you so much again, and God bless the work of your hands. And just plug yourself quickly. What you do, your Instagram, your all that kind of stuff.
So yes, I am on Instagram. As I mentioned, we are called Insight, and the way to get us is Insight_AIE. So again, that's Insight_AIE. Go and follow us. What's
the AIE again? Tell them again.
The AIE is awareness, inspire, and empower, because we want to bring awareness to mental health difficulties, to inspire people to make a change so that they can feel empowered. So there we go.
Come on, you've got that speech down pat. That's the elevator. You know the elevator speech. When you see someone you wanna pitch too quickly. You got to know
what you're pitching, isn't it? Like you got to know what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it.
Well, basically, obviously, you know what it is, yeah. Like the thing is, by the time the elevator goes ping, your time's done.
Exactly. So you got to know exactly what it is. So so awareness, inspire, empower. So follow us.
Follow up.
Us. We post in mental health related stuff, and we also provide therapy as well. So
okay, you can always reach out if you feel like you want to reach out. Black therapists, they're right here. They're always available, and you can reach out. Let's build our networks. Let's build our own people as well. You know what I mean? So I think that's important. And there's someone that just put in a comment about the Waltham Forest Black People's Mental Health Association. That's something that you should Google and look up.
There's that, and there's also the Black Mental Health Network, I think, as well.
Okay.
Not mistaken. There's one.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Locked in. We appreciate it. We appreciate you lot's time and coming and just engaging with us, you know, on topics like this. And we'll be back. Thank you so much. Follow us on at Just Vibe Show on the Twitter, Instagram, on the YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Peace.